guys, welcome back. I've got a new project. I'm going to introduce this one. It's not new, but the project side of this car is new. This car, when I bought it, SR20, forged pistons, all that stuff, it got rod knock. Unfortunately, I drove quite a bit with it. It wasn't supposed to be a drift car. I drifted it a few times. It got rod knock. Really bummed about that. But I'm going to try and make this a short story, even though it's not a short story. I had this car. I did some trade. I actually traded my Shark car for this car. This car had a stock 1J, VVTi, ECU master, W58. This is right-hand drive, wiring specialties harness. And I was like, you know what? It would be really stupid not to put that motor in this car. So all I did was take everything out of this, put it in that, plugged it in, and it started right up. So now I'm to the point of trying to get a base tune on it, trying to get some numbers on it. What I decided for this project is, since this is stock turbo, stock injectors with a standalone, I want to start with low boost, stock everything, see what I can get with a tune, and then I'm going to start doing slight mods, right? I want to put injectors on it, I want to do a little bit bigger turbo, I want to do little by little more things and do dyno videos for each one of those. So this is the first video. This is the first video. I haven't named this one yet, but let me show you. We have stock turbo 1J, stock injectors, pretty much stock everything. It's got a modified fuel system, it's got an intercooler, and that's about it. Stock bypass valve, stock intake J-pipe, all that stuff. So I'm gonna get baseline numbers like this, see where it's at, try and maximize the timing, basically get as much power out of this as I can at stock boost, which I don't even know what stock boost is supposed to be, and a standalone, right? Try and squeeze every last little bit of horsepower out of this setup. I'm gonna drive it a little bit like this, and then we'll figure out what our first mod's gonna be. Tell me in the comments what you think I should do. What do you want me to do with this motor? Obviously injectors aren't gonna do any good unless I get more airflow. Are there any basic bolt-ons I can do to this motor without going big turbo? Because obviously my biggest instinct is just like, get that out of there and put a giant turbo on there, right? That's the easiest thing to do, but I want to try and mess with it, do some other stuff first. It does have a stock downpipe that's been cut and welded to a 3-inch exhaust, so maybe some sort of a downpipe mod might work. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on a fancy like a future fab downpipe or anything, because I'm not going to keep this turbo forever. But maybe there's something. Tell me in the comments what you guys think. I've never ever ran a stock 1J with a stock turbo ever, so this is kind of new territory for me. Let me know what you guys think. So when we first put this in, obviously the base things you got to do is you got to set fuel pressure, you have to set base timing, make sure that your timing at the crankshaft matches the timing in the ECU, and then once that stuff is good to go, you can start running it and make sure that your fueling is all good and everything. And so I've gotten to that point where I got the fueling pretty well dialed. It's about 11.5 under boost all the way to redline, and now I want to start maximizing the timing and see what kind of power we can get out of this. So let's go. I haven't put a fan relay on yet, so for now this is what we got, just to run on the dyno. I swear I'm gonna fix that soon, eventually. All right. Starts up pretty well. This is actually the first car I have. There's my belt squeal. Gotta warm up the belts. That's annoying. Gotta figure that one out. I swear, I'll figure that out, I swear. Alright, so for our timing so far, this car is running about 0.7 bar. So that's our vertical. We're about 17 to 18 degrees. 18 degrees at higher RPM. The last pull I did was at 16 degrees. So I should probably run this at 17 and see what kind of power we get. I'm gonna pull all the boosty cells, reduce it by 1 degree, make permanent, go to my log's running, go to the dyno. All right, third gear. 207. All right. A little bit more power.
What?
Top speed's 88 miles per hour. That's dangerous.
Is it?
End up in 1985. Torque's staying about the same. We gained a little bit of horsepower, so I don't know if this thing wants more timing. This has got to do more than 200 horsepower at... Let's see what our boost is at. 0.8, 0.7, 0.8. So it's like 10, 11 pounds. Yeah. AFRs. Focus, focus, focus. All right, so we're 11.3 AFR. 11, yeah. Mid 11s. 0.8, 0.7, 0.6. That's the boost, that blue line. So that's pretty stable on the boost, good enough. And we ran it out to 6,800 and 17 on the timing right there. So that's not bad. Our injector duty is about 60%, so we still got more injector. We could totally turn the boost up, but I'm gonna add a little more timing and see if we gain any torque. We were 244 on torque, 207 on horsepower. So let's do another pull with another degree of timing. All right, that pull, we got 212 and 249, so we're gaining a little bit of power. A little bit of power. It looks like it's peaking when I first dip into it though, which is kind of weird.
Is this what you were expecting, or were you expecting more?
I was hoping for more, so I don't know. And I'm running in third gear, which should make it even more. So I'm running in third gear, which should make it even more power than in fourth gear, so yeah. Kind of disappointing. I don't care as much about numbers as I do about how it feels, but I'm worried it's not going to be very fast, you know? Yeah. So.
More reason to upgrade you.
Hey now. All right, guys, so here's what's going on. This car is doing some weird stuff. It's literally making like 208 horsepower is like the max. And so I decided to turn up the boost. I double checked the base timing. That was good. I checked the spark plugs. They looked fine. They looked new. The gap was good on them, and that's not even the issue. Spark plugs are never the problem unless you actually hear it misfiring or breaking up under boost or whatever. It wasn't doing that. I just wanted to check. They were fine. I messed around, got the fan almost done. I wired up the relay and then made it so I just have to ground the relay instead of grounding the fans. So I literally just need to run a wire from the ECU through the firewall to ground the relay from the ECU. But I have a bunch of wires to run from the ECU, which are like the oil pressure sensor, fuel pressure sensor, and now boost controller. Because what I did is I found the Home Depot special boost controller that we had, and it works. It forces the wastegate to run more boost, but then what it does is it spikes the boost, then it drops back down to the wastegate pressure. So basically over boosts and then under boosts. So it's not holding consistent boost pressure. I don't have another manual boost controller here, but what I do have is a Mac valve, and the ECU Master Classic is capable of running boost controller, Mac valve. So what am I doing? Literally, I'm sitting here talking about it, and I totally forgot this car has a Mac valve on it. Literally, that's embarrassing. It's already, what is this? The Wiring Specialties harness already has a boost. I shouldn't film videos without knowing what I'm doing here. Anyways, I'm gonna wire up that Mac valve, which I didn't even think was here. And it's already got hoses to the, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna wire up this Mac valve and then run that over to the wastegate so I can finally get some consistent boost pressure to this thing, and then turn it up to maybe like 1.2, 1.5 bar, somewhere in that range. I want this thing to make some power, more than 200 horsepower. It's really frustrating seeing that happen. I was playing with the timing also, and I think I found optimal timing for this thing. The fueling is pretty well dialed, so now I'm ready to turn the boost up and try and find some more power out of this thing. I'm not sure how much it was actually helping me running on these completely bald corded drift scrubs, The car was like completely shaking on the dyno and stuff, so I have no idea if that was messing with the calibration or anything. But literally the car's like, this thing's got pretty good stabilization. Won't focus, but it stabilizes. Anyways, I need to put a couple pressure sensors in the. I need to put one for fuel and one for oil, and then I need to build a sub harness that goes from the ECU through the firewall, because that car has a wiring specialties harness that doesn't have provisions for all that stuff. So I need to add all that, build a sub harness that comes through and branches out to all that, and try and make it look nice, all that stuff, because this is my nice car. I want it to show off the work that we can do, so I don't want to take any shortcuts or do budget build type stuff. I want this to be high caliber, but I'm also kind of in a hurry, so it's not a good combo. Let's go figure it out. So I figured out a different solution. In the wiring harness, this is the wiring specialties harness. It was built for a factory ECU. So what I did when I first did this car is we cut the connectors off and then wired each one individually to an EMU Classic. So there's some leftover wires in there. We didn't use the idle circuit. We didn't use the traction control circuit, and some other stuff in here. So what I've done, instead of building a sub harness, is I've found other connectors that are unused, and there's some under the hood, and I repurposed the wires and made that work. So for example, the pressure sensor uses a 5-volt signal, or 5-volt reference, and I'm really tired. Sensor ground, and the signal return to the ECU. So you have 3 wires, and we have 5-volt at the ECU, we have sensor ground at the ECU, so we just take the two of the 3 wires here, tap them into the harness, then they're running to the connector under the hood, it's carrying the 5 volts and the sensor ground, and then you take the reference, put it to the auxiliary input on the ECU, and then connect it under the hood. That was a really bad explanation of that. But we have our 3-pin connector here. And for example, the oil pressure sensor that I'm doing right now, I already put it into the side of the engine block right there. This is the idle connector that we no longer use. We don't have it on the engine. So we have 6 pins here. I'm just going to use 3 of these wires. And this will now be the oil pressure sensor that goes back to the ECU. And I don't have to build a harness. I don't have to put any wires to the firewall because they're already integrated into this wiring specialties harness. I also have this mass airflow sensor plug. I'm not sure what all these wires, because the MAF doesn't have 6 wires. But I still have these available to repurpose. I installed the boost controller off of some wires that were for the oxygen sensor, and then I used one of the oxygen sensor wires to turn on the fans. So all this stuff I've been able to do without having to run a single new wire. It's just a lot of probing and figuring out where the wire's going, making sure that everything ohms out how it should. What do you call it? Oh, continuity test. So I've had to do some continuity testing to make sure I'm on the right color wire that goes under there. I don't want to connect a bunch of stuff and have it not work. But it's working out really well so far. I'm going to go ahead and connect this oil pressure sensor. I already tested the boost controller, and it's working as far as the wires going to it, and it has power. So tomorrow I'll put this back on the rollers and set up the boost control, build a map for that, and then start turn up the boost. And the electronic boost controller should do a lot better job of controlling the boost and hitting the target that we want to. The manual boost controller would spike and then drop back down, spike and drop back down. So the electronic boost controller should take care of that problem for us. So that's it for tonight. I'll be back at it tomorrow, more dynoing and more stuff on this car. All right, guys. Last night, I drove this thing home in the middle of the night, and it was actually doing really well. I was super stoked to drive it because everything seemed to work. The electronic boost controller I put in worked. The oil pressure sensor I put in worked. The fans were kicking on and off. I had to cut out the middle of the thermostat to get that to work because it was stuck closed. I didn't have a new one, so I just took it out for now. Everything worked. Everything worked on this car. and the boost was up to 2.1 bar, or sorry, 1.1 bar. And it was actually, it's not fast. This car is not fast by any means. It's a stock turbo, and I'm used to like 3076, 3582. I'm more used to bigger turbos, and this is not it, right? So like the boost, bam, it comes on so quick, but it just doesn't punch like a big turbo, which is, it's fine. I'm not used to it, right? So it's just something I gotta get used to. But what I'm saying is everything works. I really think the car is gonna have maybe 250 horsepower, even with 15, 18 pounds of boost. But it does what I need it to. It's gonna work for what I need to do. So I'm gonna take it back to the shop. I drove it home last night. I'm gonna take it back to the shop, put it on the dyno today, get everything smoothed out, do some VVTi tuning, try and get the boost where I want it, you know, under a steady state. Because I'm literally got the laptop in here. I'm doing polls, adding some boost, trying to watch it. I wasn't even reading logs or anything. I'm just kind of watching the display, trying to stay on the road. I drifted an on-ramp. Car feels pretty good. I honestly have never driven this with a 1J. That was like the first time I've driven it with the 1J running properly. Other than that, I gotta take off the stupid rack spacers. I can't do a rack forward yet, so I hope it drives okay with no rack spacers. But right now, it's just putting load on the rack, causing like some death wobble. It's just, don't like it. Gotta get rid of those rack spacers. But I'm super happy with it. It revs smooth, it feels good, and yeah, good things. I love this car. This is the best car because you pair a 1J with a good-looking S13 coupe with Silvia bricks, low, big wheels, the turbo, it makes all the right noises, and it looks the part. Yeah, this is it. This is it.